Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boo. It's our favorite scary stories with us slightly leaned in to listen to these scary stories. They're not too scary, not too scary. I want to introduce two remarkable author illustrators in Michael Fry and Kory Merritt. And as they share scary, not too scary stories for children and their best friends, listen up. In Ghosted, Michael presents a hilarious and beautifully illustrated tale about a boy and a ghost, his best friend. In No Place for Monsters, Kory shares a story of two very unlikely friends who come together to face some tremendous fears. And I'm Craig Seychelles. I'm an elementary teacher librarian moderating today from the dark, dark Methow Valley in central Washington. But first, before anything else happens, I do encourage everybody to consider buying books through the Nowhere Bookshop Festival bookseller. You know, independent bookstores have had a mighty struggle during the pandemic, and we hope you'll support them by using the Buy the Book button on the festival website. Okay, and there is a Q&A, and we look forward to your questions. You know, as a kid, I loved Charles Addams' Spooky, Edward Gorey. As an adult, I just devour Bruno Bettelheim's Uses of Enchantments and the Value of Scary. I love when Neil Gaiman says, you know, a little bit of fear is a wonderful thing in small enough doses. Michael, you're there in Hill County near Austin, Texas, and people may know you for 30 years worth of comics. In the Over the Hedge series, kids in my library know you for the Odd Squad and How to Be a Supervillain series. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your inspiration for Ghosted?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay? I have to lean in. We're having some sound issues. Yeah, the inspiration for this was pretty simple because Ghosted was what we call a work for hire. So HMH came to me with they came to my agent Dan with an idea, and basically the idea was, you know, two best friends. One of them dies and comes back as a ghost, and the other idea was that they had like a bucket list of stuff that they needed to wanted to go through, and that was it. And I sort of auditioned for it and put together 2 or 3 chapters, and they hired me to do it. So it's not my original idea, but other than those 2 ideas, everything else I made up. So I'm particularly proud of this one. Most of my books are pretty, action adventure-y, silly kind of stuff. And this one has a little pathos in it and deals with grief and loss, and in a funny way, but it was a lot of fun to do, and I really enjoy it. And it's gotten some terrific reviews. You can go on Goodreads and stuff and see them, and people seem to like it a lot.
Yeah, well, I know I have, and I'm really delighted to have something that just has that touch, that little spice that you say of pathos. It is touching, and the bucket list idea is hilarious, and so thanks for bringing that forward. You certainly rose to the challenge of that work for hire. Now, Kory, you're tapping into something pretty dark here. I'm curious. You know, as illustrator of No Place for Monsters and The Dreadful Fate, you are on the darker end of the illustration. I love it. Now, I go out and I look at Pop Tropica, and I know you can draw something brighter, but it says, and I understand that you're a former art teacher in public schools in Western New York, and what's with all the creepy stuff? How'd you go from public school to creepy art?
Well, I mean, how's the volume, by the way? I know there was a microphone issue with my laptop.
Lean in a bit. It's dim.
In a bit. All right. Can you see the pores on my nose and my forehead and my
Now I'm scared.
hair? Oh, okay.
That is scary.
All right. Good. All right. I'm glad you're scared. Yeah, as you said, I started off not as an illustrator, as an author. Although I always loved doing that, and I would draw and write any chance I could. But I started off in one of the scariest professions, and that was elementary art teacher, working with kindergarten students and first graders. And let me tell you, that's pretty scary. And so I started drawing these little creepy monsters and these little creatures that were kind of sympathetic, but also pretty terrifying. And I'm sure it kind of just the whole, the working with these little Martians that are called kindergartners, I'm sure that fed into it. But yeah, I got my start in illustration with a site called Pop Tropica, which is created by Jeff Kinney, who does the Wimpy Kid books, and also Jess Growlier. And so that led into doing comics and books for them. And I was able to get a really awesome agent. And we talked, and he was interested in something spooky I had been working on. And this story, No Place for Monsters, it's about like this town that seems a little too safe, a little too secure, but actually people are disappearing from this town and no one remembers them. And part of that whole thing about like vanishing, no one remembers you, comes from like a fear of Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is something that older relatives in my family have had, and it really is pretty horrifying. And just that you can lose your memory, lose your life basically, and everything that makes you an individual gradually fades away. And I think that's really, really scary. Luckily, No Place for Monsters isn't too scary, because I mentioned there's lots of little creatures and characters that are probably influenced by those kindergartners and those first graders and those second graders. But that's kind of where it comes from, yeah.
It's really great, right? Within the first couple pages, you've introduced and totally erased a character. You set it up, and our main protagonist darn near get the hook too. How did you balance out Levi and Twyla as you developed those characters? Because they both had close brushes with
Yeah,
Annihilation.
and Twyla's one of the kids who disappears too. I guess they were originally, when the original draft had several kid characters, and there was a couple older kids, and luckily my agent worked with me, and then eventually my editor after it was sold, and they whittled it down just to two main characters. And for a while I kind of had a hard time connecting to the kid characters, to those main characters. I really was more interested in the monsters and drawing the boogeymen and the creatures below the town. But I guess it was like trying to find like some real flaws, maybe in myself too. Like one of the main characters, Levi, is like kind of reclusive, like definitely like an introvert who wants to just stay in all the time, which is what I'm doing now. And the other one is Kat, and she's like the opposite. She's really loud and rambunctious and obnoxious, which I can be like that sometimes too. So I think sometimes tapping into those flaws and allowing the characters to kind of grow because of those flaws, I think can work when you're developing a main character.
Yeah. Michael's book, Ghosted, you're really in a buddy book situation too. Do you want to talk about your two characters, how they play off each other, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Ghosted stars the one who's alive is named Larry, and the one who's dead is named Grim. Grim. If I had named the characters, I might not have named Grim. It's a little on the nose, but yeah, Larry is a kind of. I think the thing to understand about them, and one of the things that works in the book, is that they're together. They're kind of a team. They sort of finish each other, because Larry's kind of shy and Grim is the exact opposite. And so, Larry has with Grim being gone, at least as far as, anyone other than Larry can see him, it makes things really tough for Larry. He really misses him, his presence, but his presence is still there. It's just that no one else can see him. And, you have the kind of usual tropes of Larry can see him, but nobody else can, and, embarrassing things going on, that kind of. But as characters, yeah, you meet Grim and, you just think this is great. He's the the opening scene is about how they met as buddies and stuff and came together to, a warm soda goes under the vending machine and they have to dispose of it before it explodes. And so they bond over that. And then, very quickly I get into the ghost aspect of it. And it becomes clear throughout the story that, there's something going on with Grimm. That what they figure out is, why hasn't he passed on? And at first they think it's, we gotta finish this bucket list. If we finish the bucket list, which has a lot of silly stuff in it, like taking a bath in spaghetti and, stuff like that, then maybe that'll be it. But of course that's not it. And it's something a little bit more serious that they have to get into. And then you realize that maybe Grimm has some atonement to do before he can move on. So it goes from some pretty silly stuff to some pretty serious stuff. And then all throughout, Larry is basically, is this really happening? I approach the story with the idea of, what if this really happened in real life? And how would you react? And I think Larry reacts appropriately, which is most of the time he's pretty freaked out. So freaked out that his mom sends him to a therapist. So
I love those scenes with the therapist. Dr. What's his name? He's just delightful. He's so
Dr.
calm.
Hank.
And Dr. Hank.
I've had a lot of experience with therapists.
Yeah, it shines through in that delightful way. You've spent so much time doing strips that this kind of big reveal, here's the reveal where the unfinished business comes up. Okay. You tell it so well, and I really admire your ability to do it, to go from strip to longer form. Great. Really love it.
I really enjoy spreading out a little bit. Comics have just gotten smaller and smaller, newspapers and stuff, and it's about 10 years ago I started doing kids books, and it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think both of you are really feeding. That's what the kids are asking for in our libraries. They want to keep it fun, but something like Ghosted that skates onto the topic of grief and what's the bullying, teasing thing that's going on. And No Place for Monsters, that's easy to slot into kids who are love and creepy. Kory, which of the kids, you talked a little bit about kindergartners you're writing for, but obviously you're shooting a little higher for this. Did you have some kids like this that are ready to eat this up? Because I know I have students who are ready to eat up the monsters. It's just delightfully scary.
Well, I'm no longer teaching. I'm making this a full-time thing for now.
I bet you're haunted by those kids. I know you are.
Yeah, I know. Sure. I mean, yeah, when you're a kid, it's always fun to check out something scary. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, Goosebumps was everything. And I honestly, I never got into Goosebumps, truthfully. I mean, you mentioned Neil Gaiman. That was more my kind of thing. But like Goosebumps was so popular when I was growing up because it's like, oh, look at these scary covers. Look at it. It was like almost like a collector's thing. Like kids tried to collect as many scary covers with as many creepy, horrifying, gruesome monsters as they could. So people like scary things. I think sometimes when something scares you, it stays with you. And something like Goosebumps or even like the books we're talking about, they're almost like the fun kind of scary. Like you can kind of walk away from it because it's just like a monster or something isn't real. And I think as you get older, I think the stuff that really might get under your skin is kind of the stuff that like is more personal. And I think that's why like some of the best movies of like the last 5 to 10 years have been like horror movies. And like why you see directors like Jordan Peele are able to create these movies that are scary, but they're also like deeply personal, and they're really great movies. They're not just like Freddy and Jason movies.
Right.
No, a lot more. And it's nice that you mentioned the Peele thing because that is a haunting kind of story. It just grabs Transfiguration. Wow. We were hoping to do some drawing, but it looks like we don't have that screen share sorted out, do we?
I've got my drawing pad. If we do have, oh, it's reverse. I forgot. See, I don't.
No, it's good. It's good for us, Kory.
February
Yeah.
1st. Oh, okay. Whoa, I'm being a real goofball today. Sorry. But yeah, if anyone
Okay.
has any spooky requests,
I have my graphics pad, but that's not going to help us out. My
Okay, well,
stylus.
the Q&A is for our audience to launch questions or requests. Kory's got is a pen ready to fire. So we appreciate if people have things. I guess I would. We were talking about books and other books that scared. Kory, why don't you dive in and give us a really frightening book monster? There's a lot of monsters in this book. The biggest catalog of boogies and chupacabras, and I mean, good gracious, there's some deep work here.
I'm going to share some finished illustrations that I did, fan art of some spooky books. Okay. I'll be
Okay,
right
let's see.
right across the room. I promise. I'll be right.
All right.
Yeah.
He's leaving.
In the meantime, Michael, you talk about dealing with the psychology. This guy, Kory, I'm glad he's not here right now. He's not hearing this. I mean, what's going on in a man's head that's generating this kind of art? It's splendid.
Yeah,
Michael, did you have illustrators that you admired growing up that were on this dark inks?
Absolutely. You talked about it in the opening. Edward Gorey's stuff is terrific, and Charles Adams is like the best combination of gruesome and hilarious at the same time. I don't know if it's appropriate. Well, Adams Family, I thought that the TV show and one or two of the movies were pretty good, but no, I love that stuff. And my art is more like goofy, straightforward kind of comic strip kind of stuff. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. And Kory's stuff is amazing. Kory, we have the same agent, right, Dan?
Yeah, I just realized that as you mentioned.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
awesome agent named Dan. I thought, wait a minute.
He's the hardest working man in show business. No, he told me about you, and he said that for a while they were going to do it all in color, right? And they said no, let's do the interior art in black and white. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's black and white. The second book, which I just finished up and I just got the second pass, is actually it's in watercolor, but it's still gonna be printed in black and white. Here are the pictures, and
can you bring that up a little closer? I was going to ask about
Sure, yeah. Here's the whole thing right there. You ready for this? Look at that.
Oh, sure.
Oh, wow.
I know. All right. It's a good thing I'm not going anywhere this winter because this was quite a bit. But and I hope I'm not hogging too much of the time here because I know Michael.
Well, this is fun.
I realized that you worked on you co-created Over the Hedge, and I remember that being a movie. I remember seeing that movie on the night off when I was working at a camp.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Cool.
15 years ago. Yeah. They should. It only made $336 million, so they couldn't make a second one. But I'm not bitter.
Yeah. That was back when I had hair. I remember going to that movie. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. So here's a good creature right here for you. You ready?
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how the printing will look. It's gonna be printed all in black and white, but I painted it in black and white too. But yeah, this was my winter. But you actually, Craig, you mentioned like some cool spooky monsters, book monsters that I like. All right, yeah, Charles Adams is awesome, and Michael, you mentioned Edward Gorey. Love him, love his stuff. Didn't he write the Unwanted Guest? Wasn't that one of his books? Really creepy penguin-looking thing that like.
Yeah. That sounds right.
It might be the Reluctant Guest. I might have got the title wrong. Here's some fan art I did for. Oh shoot, I've got this big mess. Oh, right here. The Jumbies books by Tracy Batiste. And I'm trying to connect with more. I finally joined like Twitter and Instagram, so I'm trying to connect with a few more illustrators. And so I did some fan art of some of my favorite creatures. This is one of the creatures from the first Jumbies book, the Lagahu. So if there's any librarians, teachers who are listening, definitely check out that book. And I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate. This was kind of how I imagined the creature, but it's one of the many creatures that can be found in the Jumbies books. This is the second one, actually.
Kory, that's a really neat point, is that as a reader, you jump in as an artist and respond. And it's that conversation, right? You're having a visual conversation with the art, the author, and that's what we hope kids are doing, not in the margins of the books, but on the side, is really bouncing back. I've got a question up here, and I don't know the City of Ghosts series, Victoria Schwab's Ghost series. Do either of you have a beat on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, Mary Catherine, I'm going to have to do my librarian work on that. But go ahead on this fan art. There was a question, a suggestion for scary, age-appropriate picture books. So even younger than your two books. I go to Neil Gaiman. I reach back into Grimm. Getting ready with your character, Grimm. Yeah, there's Neil Gaiman. But younger, Neil's done some picture books.
Yeah.
Anything come to mind for the scary early readers?
I got one. I can't remember I think the author, I can't remember the illustrator, but the author I think is Mem Fox. He's an Australian author who's been around a long time. And I used to use this one when I was teaching. I used to do a lesson around it. And I think the name of the book is called Guess. And it's got like a witch like on the cover, and she's kind of peering over the torn paper, and then you open it up and you start reading it, and it's like, in this house is an old woman. Is she scary? And then you flip the page, and it says guess, and then you flip the page, it says yes, and it has like a really great illustration of like all the things she does that might scare somebody. Like she has like a frog in her bathtub and like crocodiles in her sink, and it's got like all these cool animals and creatures. But you gradually start, it's kind of like a call and answer thing, a book that you can like use for pre-K and kindergarten. I think I used it with a kindergarten lesson. And gradually, though, as you start to learn more and more about this witch, you start to realize that maybe she's not such an awful, evil person. I mean, she looks like your classic scary witch. She has like the big long nose like I have. And she wears like the black hat and the cape, and she rides a broom, and she has all these animals, but you start to realize that she's actually kind of a really cool, thoughtful person. And so I think that one's really great for younger readers, that you can read with them, and then you can ask them guess. And I think the answer is almost yes until you get to the very end, which asks if she's not to spoil it, but it asks if she's a nasty, wicked person, and then it says guess, and then you flip the page and you see that no, she's not wicked. She's actually really nice.
Wrong recommendation there.
I think the name of it is Guess, or Guess What, and I'm pretty sure the author is Mem Fox, and it's got really awesome oil paintings throughout.
Thanks.
Yeah, the Scary Godmother's a good one. That's from a few years ago. I can't remember her name, the artist writer of it. I remember reading it to my girls, but I don't remember much about it. So that's not, but I remember enjoying it. So, but that's one I think of, and I'm trying to think of some other things.
The Jill Thompson series you're talking about.
Jill Thompson.
The Scary Godmother. And again, kids, all the way, they love to get engaged with a story. And if a little bit of scary pulls them in, how exciting that is. To be in the story, and then to trust the author, to trust somebody like Mem Fox to get you out the other side. That's fun.
I think I got another one. I think this was by Eve Bunting. It's called Scary, Scary Halloween. And,
Eve Bunting has several really solid young picture books, right? She's got some ghosty trees and some things that I always pull out in the fall.
And Scary, Scary Halloween from the point of view of cats that are out. Again, beautiful paintings to accompany it, and it's a poem, so it's kind of fun to read with younger kids, especially at Halloween. And it's kind of how the cats are interpreting these scary Halloween costumes in the neighborhood.
Thanks. Any other questions can pop in the Q&A, but I want to kind of come back. Michael, talk about your transitions, right? Because you mentioned that some of your work has gone to movie with success. What's on deck for you? This pen for hire.
So all of my books have been optioned, which is doesn't really mean much of anything, except it means they're all in various stages of being ignored. So no, I mean Hollywood's like the first time, or not, the second time I went out there is when we sold Over the Hedge, and I thought, oh, this is easy. But no, ever since I've had a TV show based on one of my comics called Committed that starred Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara as a married couple. It was kind of my attempt to exploit my children's childhood. And so I've had that. I've gotten a ton of things optioned, and things like that. It's a kind of Hollywood's kind of a brick wall to slam your head against for a while, and I'm tired of it. But yeah, we're still How to Be a Supervillain we're still pitching that around, and I just found out that Odd Squad is going to be re-released, which is cool, by a different publisher. So who knows what will happen with that. Trying to think of what else. I've got a new one that we're working on. It's called Starstruck. It's about what do you call it? A boy band that's super popular. It turns out they're really aliens here to save the planet, and they've been here before. They were called the Beatles. So I'm real hopeful that one gets picked up. I don't know. I've learned over the time that books are books, comic strips are comic strips, movies are movies. It's probably not a good idea to try ahead of time to say, oh, here's something that will make a good movie, so let's make it a book first. It just doesn't. I can't see any rhyme or reason to it, how things get picked up or not picked up or whatever.
A few years ago, William Joyce kind of turned that cycle on its head with the flying books, where he started with the iPad app. He started with the app and then the movie. And is that how? Are you familiar with that one? Because I thought that was a very playful release.
Really good. Yeah. He had a kind of whole production thing going on in his studio in Louisiana, and he's done a ton of stuff. And worked hand in hand. I've never gotten quite that far, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot. All my stuff would make great TV shows, movies, whatever. But it's just kind of, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Now I see that you work a media production company too that goes to animation of books. Talk about that.
I used to run a company called, or co-run a company called Ringtails, and what we did was we had this great idea early in the YouTube thing where we thought, well, we'd get the rights to comics, New Yorker cartoons, things like that, and turn them into little animations that are like 20, 30 seconds long. And they were pretty popular. We did Dilbert, we did some other ones, and Dilbert was like the number one video podcast at one point back in 08 or 07. The problem is we were a little ahead of the curve, and it's hard to put a 30-second ad on a 30-second piece of content. And the advertising industry did not cooperate with us with like short ads and things like that. And it just, we spent $1.5 million and we made $1.2 million. And that's not sustainable over a long period of time. So we did it for like 4 or 5 years. It was a lot of fun. And I got to do voice acting. I did a lot of voice acting on the comics. And I did a lot of animation, which I hadn't done much of before. Kind of flash stuff, pretty simple. But it was a great experience. I really enjoyed doing it. And I had to commute to LA for like 4 or 5 years. I'd go out for 2 weeks, come home, that kind of thing. So I got to the point where I never wanted to go to Los Angeles ever again.
Good. And here you've got a book festival close to your hometown, and we can't even do that. Hey, I see Jeff asking Kory about the chupacabra. What's going on with that? Have you got some? I can hold up examples, but that is a searing sidekick you created there, Kory. You want to talk about?
That's my favorite character. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Flesh it out a little bit for me, will you? It's pretty skinny.
And I see Jeff asked about is it El Cuco? Did I say that right? think that's like the boogeyman of Latin America, I think. I yeah, there's quite a few different types of boogie type creatures in this book, and the chupacabra is like it's kind of like it's really just like a little mangy fox in the book. I know there's so many different versions of it, and I think I saw that the original sighting, that when people thought they saw a chupacabra back in the 90s, these sightings started. And again, I'm sorry for those of you who like to believe in monsters, but I'm pretty sure it's all just like mangy dogs and coyotes and foxes, and every time they, yeah. But I think it was actually inspired by a monster. Somebody had gone to a movie and seen this movie. I think it was called Splice. I could be getting that wrong. And there was like this really spiky monster in the movie, and they got a little psyched out, and then they thought they saw one on their walk home or something like that, and then that turned into the chupacabra myth. But yeah, I've always liked the little creatures that like in movies and TV, and also in real life too. I like a lot of strange animals and wildlife. Like one of my favorite animals is a hellbender, which is like this type of like foot-long salamander that's unfortunately very endangered, but it's like in like southeastern United States and even some of the northeastern states. And the creature in the book, Willow, is kind of a little bit like one of those Chinese crested dogs that are hairless, but they have like a little tuft of hair on their head that kind of hangs down like bangs. And so that's kind of what that thing is in the book, except for it's got like spines along its back. It's got like a very arched spine. And I don't really hear from many people about this book, but the few that have reached out to me have always said that that's their favorite. So I guess there are plenty of readers out there who like creepy creatures or the unappreciated little ugly things that are really pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's a Gollum fan club too.
Oh yeah.
And Dobby had quite a following, I know, in that series. There's the little sidekicks are really something. I love that. Hey, Michael, if I could switch back over to Ghosted, the unfinished business of Grimm's unfinished, his taunting and setting up other kids for it's Boogie.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. How you wove that into the story.
Well, we needed, I worked with my editor over at Houghton, and we wanted I wanted there to be something, it had to be more than this bucket list thing. Obviously, there had to be something a little more serious and challenging for them to get past. And the bully thing's a little overdone, but I thought it would be fun if there was this one kid who's a little older than all the other kids. He clearly started shaving when he was 10. And it's a whole mythology is built up around this guy. That he was raised by bears, and there were he lived in a forest somewhere or whatever. And it turns out that I don't want to give too much of the story away, but that mythology all came from Grimm, and he's the one who made it all up, and he kind of made Boogie's life kind of miserable. And so what they do is Larry and Grimm, once they figured that out, they figured, well, that's what we got to fix. And then I thought as a further complication is that Boogie doesn't want to be fixed. And so they have to get past that as well. And so a lot of times in storytelling, and this goes for any story, it's, you got to get your protagonist, and, the Greeks got it right a long time ago. You get them up a tree in third act, and you shoot flaming arrows at them, and the tree is over a waterfall, and, you make it really, really hard. And that's what we tried to do in the story was, make it as hard as possible. So the reader's like, well, how are they going to resolve this? How is this going to work out? And then what you end up doing is writing yourself into a corner, and I actually have no idea how to figure it out until I get
it seems like,
and that's the scary part about scary books is getting stuck. and having no idea how you're going to fix it. So.
So you had them escape on a tweet and some tagging, huh? Is that how they get out of it?
Well, what they do is they I don't want to give too much away. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Almost the entire book. No, you don't have to read it. No, yeah, they figure out something to try to. They basically go behind his back and try to redeem him on his own, and he doesn't appreciate it. And then there's a twist at the end where finally they figure out what it is they need to do. I won't give that away.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, it was a lot of fun to figure out. These things are huge jigsaw puzzles, and I hate jigsaw puzzles. Like trying to figure them out. But that's what's exciting about it is you get up in the morning, you got a problem. How am I going to get character A to get here and get this thing and figure this thing out? And by the end of the day, some days anyway, you figure it out. That's fun.
Yeah. That resonate for you, Kory? I wonder if you felt like you had that puzzle writing a sequel.
The sequel was actually supposed to be a different book. I kind of had this idea for like an unrelated story, because I wanted to do something that was kind of like found footage, like a kid's book, but made up of found footage. Is it possible? I'm going to try to do this screen share. I know there was a bit of an issue with it. Let me know if this works. If not, I'll just close out. Did that work at all?
Nope.
No? Okay, never mind.
We'll still see you.
Sorry about that. Anyways, though, like the sequel is actually told a lot of it through like cameras, like phones, and as if somebody were filming it, kind of like the Blair Witch, but except in kids book form, I guess. So it was kind of a challenge, and also like a lot of it through like school security cameras because it all takes place in a school. But then I kind of talked to my editor, and she said that they're, kind of expecting it to be a sequel. So it was kind of easy just to put characters from book one back in it, and just kind of expand it so it's a whole school. So there's like kind of a big ensemble, and again, having been a teacher, it was pretty easy to like throw in some teacher characters and the custodian and kind of an oblivious principal, and then have that where they're trapped in the school overnight because of a March blizzard, and then the backup generator fails, and there's something else walking around in the school in the darkened halls, and so for that it really wasn't that hard to do a sequel because it was kind of a new idea, and it wasn't that hard to just kind of connect it back. But sure, I've definitely been in spots where like Michael said, where it's kind of like it's like maybe you write yourself up a tree, or kind of like my problem is I almost try to throw too much in there, and then I get this gigantic pile, this a gigantic book, and like each of the books I've done has been like over 300 pages, which is kind of long. Fortunately, there's a lot of pictures, so it's I hope a quick read. For me, though, it's a lot of like more of a problem that I get going too, and I do too much, and maybe it gets confusing, and there's just a ridiculous amount going on. And luckily, I have an editor and an agent who can kind of look through and tell me what I need to cut out, and which has been really helpful.
Get pretty involved in there. I know, this thing though, the heft of a book like this has a certain sex appeal to these readers, and epitomized by Brian Selznick's gorgeous toe breakers, that where he's giving such remarkable display of art and text. But I love that you all are producing something which is really very accessible in that middle grade level, but the books have some heft, and like you said, Michael, they've got some content that and some issues that are worth digging in on. Kory, do you want to talk a little bit about your relationship with Jeff Kinney and how it seems like you're playing with several authors in your chapter titles. I've noticed too that Strangers in a Strange Land, chapter 16, Where the Wild Things Are Now. Talk about your play with other authors. Where's all that?
Yeah, I mean the only one I know personally is Jeff because he and Jess Browlier originally hired me at Pop Tropica, and I also know Max Browlier who does Last Kids on Earth, which has found great success as a Netflix series
Yeah.
too. Um, but Selznick, you mentioned Brian Selznick, and I love his books, and I have two of them over there. I'm looking at them right now. These giant tomes, and he was really nice to give me a blurb. That was really really nice because we never met, and I was just really thankful to get that. But the chapter titles, I actually had to change a few of them because they were worried about copyright infringement. So that's why the last chapter in the book is called "Where Sidewalks End" instead of "Where the Sidewalk Ends," because it just had to twist the titles around a little bit. But yeah, I just tried to throw those in as little fun allusions to like books I liked as a kid. Like I loved Shel Silverstein's books and some of his songs growing up. But Jeff was he of course was like this superstar with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then he launched Pop Tropica. And I remember it was like the last week of school. I got home and I had been like doing I just was a teacher and I just did side stuff on Go Comics. And which Michael, I'm sure you know, because Over the Hedge is on there, and probably more of your work is on there. But I was just like, I just had like a side feature on there that maybe just a few thousand people followed. But an editor named John Glynn, I had an email from him, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "Are you interested in doing freelance work?" He goes, "There's a pretty notable children's book author who's interested in illustrators for a comic strip, and I recommended you, and you're on his short list." Or he didn't say his short list; he just said the short list. So I was like, So I almost was like, I'm kind of busy because I was like the last week of school, and like what if it's somebody like somebody like Neil Gaiman or someone like that? So I just wrote back like what if like 1 in a million chance it's somebody like Neil Gaiman? So I wrote back, yes, I'm very interested, and I thought I could always back out of it later. And so then he wrote back, he's like, the author is Jeff Kinney, maybe you've heard of him, with like a winky face. I was like, oh, so they sent me his email and he said he'd be in touch in a few weeks, and he basically told me what they wanted. It was for Pop Tropica. They wanted to kind of audition illustrators for comic books that they were doing. And so I kind of like spent a couple weeks drawing the samples that they had done. And the first time I drew them in my own style, which was very loose and kind of creepy looking actually. And then I found out they actually wanted me to try to match the style of the game, because Pop Tropica was this game that was popular maybe like 10 to 12 years ago. I feel like it's kind of fallen into obscurity now. But anyways, so I changed it up, and I couldn't believe it. I got the job, so I got paired with a writer, and like Jeff, super nice guy. He invited me to Boston at one point, so I got to go to Boston, meet Jeff, meet Jess, meet Max. And then they did a book series that he had written and it's funny, Michael, that you mentioned like how options, things like that, like it's just like it had been optioned. Pop Tropica had been optioned for a TV show, and like for the first couple of years I was working there, I kept hearing, "Now this is probably going to happen. It's probably going to happen." And then it was like, "Well, maybe it's going to happen." And then finally it was like, "Well, we're going to do the scripts as a book series instead." And it actually worked out for me because I got to illustrate the comic books. But so that was really cool. So I've we've been in touch, and he's been really really great, and I'm still in touch with him, and like I know he gets asked by like a million people. And Michael, I'm sure this happens for you too, where you get asked to blurb books, especially with people you've never even heard of. And
Well, not as often as Jeff, but yeah.
yeah, probably not. But and I'm sorry to say that I hit him up last winter to see if maybe he blurbed No Place for Monsters, and I couldn't believe it. He said he would, and so that was really really sweet of him. And again,
Great.
he's been very very supportive. And if you're ever in Boston, if you ever go to like Boston Midwinter, like ALA Midwinter, or if you go to any of those local book festivals, um, Jeff owns a store in Plainville, Mass, which is like right outside of Boston, where he he renovated like an old general store, turned it into a bookstore, Unlikely Story, and he has like private karaoke parties when there's a lot of librarians or a lot of authors in town. So I got to go to one of them.
I do not sing. My voice is high and whiny, and I could not sing anything. Maybe a Neil Young song, but that's about it. And on account of the high whiny voice. And I'm just kidding. I like Neil Young, but if you can ever get there, buddy up with him. Maybe you get to go to the party. He is the only one who can actually sing. Most of the librarians and authors have huge egos, and they think they can go up on stage and do a great song, but they I don't know. And but Jeff actually does have some pipes, so it's actually kind of amusing. So
No,
I'm
I'd love
sorry, I
to
went on and
embarrass.
on and on, but that's my relationship with Jeff.
I'd love to embarrass myself in front of Jeff and friends.
Sure. I mean,
I think
again,
we're all looking forward to the opportunity to be embarrassed in
Right.
public with others.
yeah, yeah. I did not sing though. I held my ground. They asked me would I get up do a carry. I was like no, because even though I
Well,
just I would be
sometimes you just got to go, like the blurb you said with Jeff. You just got to ask, and I did that with Odd Squad, and I followed Neil Gaiman on Twitter, and for some inexplicable reason, I was one of the few people, or like 600 people he followed back. I don't know why. I guess
I
maybe
saw he follows you. You
he
followed
doesn't
me today.
anymore, though. He doesn't
And I was
anymore,
like,
though. But
oh,
he cut me off for some reason. But anyway, I sent him a direct message and I said, if I sent you Odd Squad, would you look at it? And he said, I make no promises. People ask me to do this stuff, anything. If I do, you can send it, but whatever. And then he went out, he and his wife had, Amanda, they had their first anniversary, and they both got food poisoning, and they were
oh
at
no.
the emergency room, and he had nothing to do, so he read my book while he was getting an IV, and then he gave me a blurb.
Whoa. That is.
And it was great. It was great.
I adore Neil Gaiman. Everything he's done.
Yeah, no, he's one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's true, and he's by all accounts a great guy. So
That
I
is,
think
but
I
yeah,
think
no,
that's
that-
a really
so the moral of the
What's
story
that?
is if you want a blurb from Neil Gaiman, you got to get him sick, right?
You got to get him sick. That's it. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because that's about the only time he probably had to between doing all the millions of projects he has. So you got to get him to slow down.
yeah.
I guess
Hey,
that's a disclaimer. That's not. Nobody should be trying to poison Neil Gaiman. I'm sorry if I implied.
No, yeah. Let's please, kids, don't do this at home. No.
Yeah.
But the thing we do want kids to do is to reach out to authors. It's remarkable. There was the eulogizing of Beverly Cleary recently at 104, and still remembering
Yeah.
letters. When kids reach out to authors, there's some magic that happens there that sets the hook hard at both ends. I don't know. Do any of you have interactions with readers that come to mind in your experience? Why don't you talk about that just a little bit? We got 5 more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get as much snail mail anymore, but yeah, people reach out online and through social media and stuff like that. And yeah, I try to take a little bit. I've been over the years. I'm not as good as sending real letters, but emails and things like that. Or sometimes you get young cartoonists who are trying, and they just want to chat and just do that. And that there were some guys when I was young that did that, and I really appreciated it. So you always want to pass it forward and and help out and stuff like that. I'm always happy to do that. So you run into that at festivals and stuff like that.
I don't hear from many people because I'm pretty new, and I occasionally a few, but I think I'm more of the kind of person who will reach out to other people. Like I'm kind of like the big fan, the big nerd, and I haven't been very active on social media at all. I still kind of lurk and just see what people are saying, but I had a little break where I finished the first draft of the book that I was working on this winter, and I had a little break, so I kind of was doing some fan art. I showed the one for Tracy Batiste of her character, and she thought it was cool, and she reposted it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, this is so cool.
So then I was like trying to think of another favorite. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna pick Mary Downing Hahn, who did Wait Till Helen Comes, which scared me so much when I was a kid. And so I made a drawing of Helen and a few details from the book, and I posted it on Instagram and was waiting to and tagged her in it, waiting to see if she'd respond. Then I looked, and she is like, she's never made a post. She has an Instagram, and then I realized, well, she's like, I think she's around 80. She's probably not checking, so I realized maybe I should back off a little bit. But honestly, yeah, I miss the book festivals, and that's why I think it's so cool we got to do this. I got to meet Michael, and then Craig, I got to meet you, because it's fun to meet people I've admired for a long time in the business and hear their stories and chat with them. And yeah, I didn't really get to any drawings because I was too busy talking and name dropping. But if anyone does have like personal illustration requests, you can usually catch me online, and I might just kind of whip something off if it's for a class or if it's for kids or something like that. So.
Well, I think if you've admired Michael for a while, you should real quick do a Michael while we wrap this show up and send it off to him.
Yeah, please.
All right, we'll try. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's essential, isn't it, Michael?
Yes.
I'm thrilled to get a chance to talk to both of you. As a school librarian, I reach out, use Twitter to reach out to authors, and there's an electricity with readers when they realize that authors, are doing shoes and socks just like they are, that they've got laundry they've got to get to, or problems that they write themselves up a tree, like you said, Michael, and it's really terrific that you share yourself in this festival setting. Thanks.
I would need an inside joke for this to be a little funnier, but oh wow, I don't know what I do with it. I don't know why I get the elf ears there.
That's a lot more hair than I actually have, but thank you.
I'm quite proud of the hair, though.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah.
Well, great. Any projects coming up that you want to clue the audience into? You guys are always working a couple.
Yeah, just doing the. I told you about Starstruck, the thing, and that's out to editors right now, and we just sent it out, so I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And then there's other stuff, but it's just kind of bubbling underneath the surface right now.
Yeah.
So it's been a very strange year. It's kind of messed with my productivity, I think, a little bit. Yeah. Which you wouldn't think for me much had really changed, right? Because we're just stuck at home like we always are. But I don't know. It was quite a drama going on in our country for that sucked me into watching way too much TV. So it's time to get back to work.
Same here. I thought, I'm just going to be staying inside and I'll get so much done. And it was like last fall, I just was like, again, I can't complain because I'm insanely lucky and like just super privileged and just so glad to be doing what I'm doing. But it was like, spending too much time just like following things and like, oh no, it's a little too much like, I don't know. But yeah, I got a book coming out next year, or actually, excuse me, this year, next fall, and I'm pretty excited for it. Got plenty of strange creatures. This right here is a giant potu bird, which potu birds are actually real. And if you've never seen a picture of one, please look them up. Potu, P-O-T-O-O. They are stranger, I think, than this drawing itself. They really look like a living Muppet. They do. So check those out. And so we'll see. I'm kind of excited for some things coming up, but Michael, you did mention that sometimes you can never tell with an option, so we'll see on that front too. Yeah.
Very strange. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. All right,
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I have to put a wrap on this. I did want to thank the book festival for bringing us together, and also remind the audience that jump into the Nowhere Bookshop, the festival bookseller, and buy this book by all means, because there's no question that books in the hands of readers it makes all the difference in the world. We want to thank you both, and wish you good luck for coming out the other side of this tunnel.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you, Craig.
Thank you.
And so great to talk to you, Michael.
Yeah, great to talk to you. I'll say hi to Dan for you, and you say hi to Dan too. So,
I will, yeah. Thanks, Craig.
Okay.
all right.
All right. Bye-bye,
See
everyone.
you later. Thank you.